speaking of trends,
Mhm.
obviously you have, I mean, your finger on the pulse of the legal industry in technology. So I'm curious, what have you seen really evolve over the past, I'm going to say year, um,
Mhm.
but over the past, the past year, what are some of the biggest things that have stood out to you?
I mean, it's so interesting because, we've really witnessed in 2020, right, this incredible revolution in the way that we work. And when I say we, I don't even mean just attorneys, but certainly the way CASEpeer works, I'm sure the way you guys work, and just businesses as a whole. And it's interesting because as much as people like to say there's sort of this stereotype that the attorneys don't like change. And to some degree, that might be true, but I think it's really universal. Change is hard, change is painful. And actually, in what I see in my clients, and certainly PI attorneys are always pushing the envelope and looking for creative ways to evolve and do things better. So maybe I'm lucky from that standpoint. But I've been so impressed with how creatively and passionately, like thousands and thousands and thousands of law firms have adapted to this new way of life that we're dealing with right now. It, the one thing I'll say, it's certainly been easier for firms that already had software in place, cloud-based software, right? There's a lot of great options out there. It doesn't have to be CASEpeer, but if you already had one in place and, March hit 2020, I mean, it just rocked your world, right? But I think the things that really stand out to me is actually how courts and judges and that infrastructure has adapted, because I do think that those things change slowly. I mean, we're even seeing it with whether it's court data or, gosh, dress code for women. I mean, right, a lot of this stuff when it comes to courts and judges is a little archaic. And the fact that just a few months into the pandemic, one of my clients in Texas was doing a virtual deposition in between client calls from his home office is like pretty amazing. And, I remember him telling me this was a court that was 2 hours away from his client's house and 2 hours away from the opposite direction from his house. And the efficiency that came out of this happening virtually was limitless. And yes, like there's of course the risk that you're going to have a cat show up to your deposition. um, but I mean, let's be honest, we all can use more I am not a cat moments in our lives, right? Like, I mean, I just made my week.
I I thought that was a hoax. So
It was too good. It was too good. I don't
it
know.
I really thought that was like one of those like Onion articles or something like
Yeah.
that. Like lawyer shows up as a cat,
It
can't get the
sounds like
filter
a
off.
headline, right? It does.
So obviously, and for you too, it's a topic of conversation in the workplace, and the VP and I am talking about it, and I'm like, oh yeah, like what was up with that lawyer who was a cat? He's like, you didn't watch that, and he sends it to me, and the poor lawyer, like, and he was such a good sport about it after the
He's
fact too.
done some interviews. He seems like he's the sweetest man. And listen, like this could happen to any of us, right? I think that's why it was such a hit, is that it is so relatable. And probably 20% of us have turned on Zoom and had the background on from a Zoom party we
Oh
were
yeah,
on the night before. I mean, I tuned into a team meeting after the holidays and I had like a giant Santa Claus in the background. So we've all been there
yep.
and done that. It's so relatable. I mean, that's one thing that's not going to happen again. Do
I
it
thought
once.
he was so cute about it, where he's like, I could do it anyway. I promise
I'm
I'm not a
ready.
cat.
I'm here.
I'm
I know.
here. And I'm glad for him that it didn't have like a voice filter too, so that he didn't
Yes.
like
Oh
sound
gosh.
squeak. I
Yeah.
don't know. That would have made it even worse. But
Um.
uh,
Totally.
so what was I going to say? Is this is what I was going to say. So when you're talking about being able to do a deposition from home, again, you go back to like you can get more work done instead of having like the
Yeah.
billable hour, right? Going back to that.
It's an increase in productivity. Absolutely. And I mean, I will say too that I hope some of these things are here to stay, right? I think there's a little bit of that. Well, maybe courts are going to reel this back in, but even, I mean, I think about this especially for my clients that often are dealing with injured people And so the freedom that that potentially gives, look, some people are going to love doing everything live, right? And I understand that there's, to some extent, you can't beat it, body language, all that. But the fact that we've been able to allow justice to keep moving forward, even though it's already been affected and hampered, certainly, but the fact that it's able to keep moving forward to some extent, and it's making things easier for clients, for attorneys, hopefully even for judges and things like that, court reporters, it's an exciting evolution.